Like, I fuck around with the waiters and waitresses,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I'll joke around with them and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got to be careful with that, man. They will fuck up your shit.
Yeah.
They'll put pubes in your pasta.
Infirmary Media.
You are now tuned in to the Selling Out Podcast.
What it does is reaches into your brain chemically and locates your happiest memory chemically, and then locks onto that emotion and freezes it chemically, and then it keeps you happy.
Hello, and welcome to the Selling Out Show. This is episode number 21. Our podcast is Legally Able to Drink. I am one of your hosts, David Schultz, and by my side is my good pal and partner in crime, Nate Gorzinski. Nate, how the heck are you?
Not bad, man. Let's celebrate our show's 21st birthday.
Yeah, tip him back, bro. What was your first drinking memory or experience?
You know, it's interesting. Like, I didn't drink. Like, a lot of people start with alcohol. I feel like I started with pot, and I smoked for a while before I first drank, but I was still probably only, I don't know, maybe 14, 15, and my first real memory of drinking was getting a little too drunk. I was hanging out with a few friends that you would even remember. I don't think you were there, but maybe
Okay.
you might have even been there. We were hanging out with an old friend, Gary, and this dude, Bob, who, you remember Bob and Tom? I don't want to say their last names, but they're from our hometown. They were kind of stranger looking people. You know who I'm talking about?
I do.
Okay.
I do remember those stranger looking people.
Yes.
They're weird.
Yes. And so those people were also heavily into, as a lot of our friends were, like live action role playing, Dungeons and Dragons type stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And I remember drinking a bit too much and feeling like uncomfortable, like the room was spinning and all this, and they wanted to go out to like a store. They were like, let's go out and do this or that, and I was like, dude, I can't even get up. And I remember one of these D&D friends getting all serious and like, dude, I can do a spell which will sober you up. He put his hand up to my head and like was like muttering something under his breath. I don't know if it was psychosomatic or what, but I was like totally into it because I'm young and I'm drunk and I'm like, I don't know what the fuck's real. And dude, I
Sure.
swear to God, it was enough to get me up and moving, and I didn't throw up as far as I remember. So maybe the dude had magical powers. But what about yourself? I know you've had
My first
yeah,
memory?
yeah.
I was a fetus.
Okay.
Abracadabra, yo!
Abracadabra, man.
Why do you keep saying that? What, abracadabra? Yes, abracadabra. It's the latest slang, man. All the kids are saying it, right?
Hey,
abracadabra.
Surgery really freaks me out. I am going for a surgery shortly, and the whole idea, and I've had them before, but the whole concept of surgery just really gets me unnerved.
As it should, man. It's creepy.
Well, I mean, some of the reasons people get really kind of skittish about surgery, because in essence, they're doing it to save your life, so it has to be a good thing,
Right.
or to make your life better. Not everything is a life-changing or altering surgery, I suppose,
Yeah.
but you have to be knocked out.
Right. Anesthesia.
Anesthesia, thank you very much. And that's the part that concerns me the most, because it's almost like cryogenic sleep.
Yeah, man.
I
Yeah.
mean, when I've been put under in the past, I don't remember any dreams or anything. I just wake up and I'm like, holy crap, am I alive?
Right.
Am I dead? For the first like 10 minutes, you don't know what the hell is going on.
Absolutely, man. It's very trippy. Like you said, you've had experiences with this before. I remember
Yeah.
being around for one of your surgeries actually, but yeah, man, is this, I mean, do we have to worry? Is this something, you know?
I'm dying. I am near death. Well, actually, I say that in jest because I do I do kind of worry a little bit because it's always those little routine surgeries that people get fucked up on.
Right, like Joan Rivers died when she was under anesthesia for like plastic surgery or
Yeah,
some
but
shit.
she was like 800 years old.
Right. You're not quite there.
I'm
you
a
know.
crisp 40.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
even then, it's always this random things like, oh, he had his tooth extracted and he died.
Right, man.
No, I'm
Dude.
going for the worst thing ever, dude. A hernia. They're gonna put in a mesh.
Oh, dude, not a mesh.
Well, it's funny you say that because I watch TV and
Dude,
I see
those
these
commercials.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. They're like, "Have you gotten a bad mesh and has
Yeah.
it moved and or is it going to fucking kill you? Call us so we can sue them."
It's like growing into people's skin, dude. The commercials are all class action lawsuits for. Usually it says vaginal mesh, which I don't even want to think.
That's what I'm
about
getting.
that. Yeah, dude, you're getting a vaginal mesh.
Getting
Well-
that patched right up.
Well, hopefully it doesn't assimilate into your tissue. It sounds like the mesh like grows into it. Like when you see an old tree where the barbed wire is like growing into the bark of the tree.
Yeah.
I can imagine the mesh growing into your oh, dude. And
Oh,
you're worried
dude.
you're worried about the anesthesia? Dude, it's the
Yeah.
mesh. It's
Well, I'm worried about the anesthesiologist. Did I even say that right?
anesthesiologist.
Oh, thank you so much. But like maybe he had a bad day,
Maybe.
or like his wife just left him,
Hey.
or he just lost a bunch of money betting on the Super Bowl or something. He's like, yeah, fuck this fat piece of shit. I'm cranking this up to 11,
Yeah.
and I never wake up again. And then they gotta bury me with this mesh embedded, like you said, in my tree bark.
Oh,
I mean, it's just the whole process itself. You go through it a couple times, like I mentioned I did, and you think you're comfortable with it, but as
Yeah.
the actual date creeps up on you, you get a little freaked out.
I believe it, man. I believe
So,
it.
and you're not making it any better.
Oh, of course not, man. That's my job.
You're like, oh no, the commercials. Oh, Jesus Christ, you're going to turn
Well-
into Swamp Thing.
Dude, my band has like a running joke about mesh because I don't know, it's probably me that first brought it up, but I was like started talking about those commercials. So we toyed with the idea of calling our band like Vaginal Mesh or like
Yeah.
Mesh and
It's
um,
catchy.
Yeah,
Looks
man.
good on a t-shirt.
Absolutely. But I do have a little experience with anesthesia. I don't have a history of surgeries. I don't believe I've ever really had a serious surgery. The closest I've had was I had my wisdom teeth out when I was in my mid to late teens. I was probably 16, 17. And the one thing I remember, they offered me, they said, do you want just like gas or local anesthetic, or do you want intravenous sedation? And I could choose. And at that, tender age, I was already experimenting with this, and I was already drinking with wizards.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, IV sedation, that sounds fun. And dude, the drug they give you, or they did back then, was sodium pentothal, which is what the military would give people as a truth serum. Like there's that scene in True Lies with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right,
where
yeah,
they
of
give-
course. I remember.
And so I'm like, this sounds interesting. So I remember them giving me, like putting the IV in, and I remember them saying, count backwards from 100 or whatever it was. And they said, by the time, you get to 95, you're not going to remember any of this. And they said something like, you'll be conscious, but you're not going to remember anything.
Yeah, right.
Now, dude, I remember the whole time thinking, what are they talking about? I'm going to remember this. Like, I remember, I'm conscious. I'm going to remember this. And I still remember having those thoughts, but I do not remember what they did, what was going on. I just remember thinking, I'm going to remember this. And the next thing I knew, I was waking up in like the waiting room, and my father's like, you need help walking to the car and this and that. And I remember they gave me a nice hefty script of codeine to go home with, and that's about it. But I don't remember the surgery at all. So
No.
So
You're
it was-
vulnerable. You're
yeah.
at their mercy. They could have been flicking your wee-wee.
Dude, you never know. I don't know, man.
You're completely naked. That's the other thing. They don't let you wear underwear. So they're flopping you around. Your dingle dong is, who knows, if it's cold.
They're
in
like-
the operation room. It's embarrassing.
Yeah. They're like, we need to shave your privates. I'm like, I'm getting my wisdom teeth out. What is this for? But yeah.
Hey, another funny thing about that countdown
Yeah.
is I'm afraid about what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Because that
Oh.
truth serum, baby, that's some nasty shit. You could be like, oh, wow, hey, look at that nurse. Nice rack, baby. Hey, I'm just kidding. I'm married. You know what I mean? But seriously, if you want to do something to me while I'm asleep, go right ahead.
You're like,
Who knows?
yeah. They're like, how are you feeling? You're like, okay, I like a finger in my bum during sex.
Exactly.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, hey.
God, I hate to move, and I am amidst a move right now. I am in the process of packing up all my shit and hitting the road yet again.
Dude, I got a headache just thinking about it, man.
Oh, it's the worst. And the thing is when I was a kid,
Yeah.
I was the worst buddy in the world, because you know how it goes. Everybody says, hey, I'm going to buy some beers.
Yeah.
Come and, help me move for the weekend or whatever. And I was that guy who would drink all the beers, pass out, and not help anybody with diddly poop.
Like you'd answer the ad, but then just not really follow through.
No, I wasn't doing classifieds or nothing. This is my friend.
No, I know.
You know?
I know. I'm talking, you know what I'm saying.
You're just talking.
Yeah,
That's all you're doing. That's what
I
we're
do.
here for. It's a podcast. We're just talking. But yeah, and now it's karma because I got nobody to help me.
Right.
So I'll be hauling all my shit everywhere. It's gonna. I dread it, man. I dread it like the plague.
Yeah.
I mean, the fun thing is when you set everything up and you get the new space and it feels fresh, and
Sure.
where I'm moving is bigger. Of
Yeah.
course, yeah. I'd hate to say, I'm moving to a smaller place, and
Hey, it
life
happens.
sucks, but
yeah.
things are on a upswing. Things
That's
are looking good. It's an uptick.
Congratulations.
Oh yeah, thanks a bunch. I'm gonna think about that when I got a fucking couch on the stairs.
If I were anywhere near you, I would definitely help. I will say, not to toot my horn, but I've usually been pretty good about helping friends move. But a lot of that was because for a long time I drove a truck, and when you have a truck, you are usually the first person that everyone calls when they need help moving.
Oh, yeah.
You know? But I was usually pretty good about it anyway. It's like, yeah, well, like you said, we'll throw you some beers, maybe order pizzas if you help me move, and I don't know. I was usually pretty good about it, but yeah, man, I do not envy you for that, man. Because of all the people that I've helped move, man, I've been pretty lucky. My personal items over the years, just from my crazy life, has never gotten too big. I've never been somebody that's owned a bunch of stuff. So it's like when I move, it's like usually a carload, you know. But
right, yeah. Well, the whole truck thing. That's why I drive a Dodge Omni.
yeah.
That way, no one ever asks me to do anything for them. They don't even want to ride to the bus stop.
Oh man.
But I mean, the other thing you said about possessions is, if you remember my previous move,
Yep, I do.
the listeners know nothing about this, so I'll inform them. I gave a lot of my stuff away.
Yeah.
It was very freeing. It felt good to do so. But now I've recollected and reamassed a bunch of shit.
Damn, man. It happens quick.
Plus, the wife and the kid got a bunch of stuff. If it was just me, I'd be like you, a carload.
Yeah.
That would be it,
Yep.
But, oh.
Dude, I know. It's rough, man, especially with a kid. It's just like you just amass toys and all these things that it's like, half the stuff, it's like, does he even play with this anymore? But you don't want to throw away his stuff, you know what I mean? It's like, maybe he'll forget about it, some of it, in the course of the move, and you can get away with, paring down things, but does that make me a horrible person to say?
No, not at all. I've actually suggested giving things away to charity.
Yeah.
And my 6-year-old is like, what? What are you, crazy?
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, this is broken. And I do the whole explanation like, oh, there's a little kid out there. He might not have money or parents. I mean, I'm making up whatever.
Right.
Shit comes to my mind. And my son's still like, no, this still has value to me.
Course.
So
yeah.
I have a future hoarder in the making
Oh,
here. I don't know
dude.
what I did to screw him up like that, but he's a pack rat.
Dude, I think a lot of kids are like that. My girl's son is the same way. I mean, he's gotten better, but he had this like toy chest thing that was just, dude, I'm talking, it was overflowing. The stuff at the bottom hadn't been seen in years. And if you mentioned throwing any of it away or just paring down your possessions, he would freak out. And so he had to kind of do it on the sly. And I mean, but yeah, that hoarder sort of mentality comes in. And I think a lot of it's normal as a kid, so I wouldn't worry about it. But then you start to wonder. It's like, certain behaviors definitely get worse with age. So it's like, is this normal? Should I just kind of like educate? What should I do here? But I think
I wish you had said that a week ago before I had my kid institutionalized. Not to worry
he's
about
doped up on Thorazine and in a rubber room
you know,
somewhere.
Some listeners may be thinking, Dave, you lazy fuck, why don't you just hire a mover? And the reason is my experience with movers is they're even lazier fucks than I am. And they charge for everything.
Of course, man.
They break shit, and then they're like, oh, well, we're not responsible for that. Sign this waiver. But if you need a box or something, oh, yeah, that's going to be $20.
Right, moving pads, boxes.
Yeah, we get charged per step.
Yeah.
So every step's going to be $5. And you're like, you son of a fucking bitch. And they don't put things certain places. And
right.
I fucking hate movers. Movers are scum of the earth.
Yeah.
So if you are a mover and you're listening to this show, fuck you.
So I'm always bitching about like the way the world is changing, being an old fogey at this point, and a big element of that is like seeing how the workforce is being affected by modern technology. And I'm not the first person to complain about something like self-checkout lines, but the concept of self-checkout lines used to bother me because I was like, dude, look at this, it's an example of technology removing people from their jobs, and kind of a precursor to robots and all of this. And I'm like looking at it like that, and then it came to me the other day, I'm like, dude, this isn't like modern technology. They just took the fucking register and turned it around and are making me do the work, and like they're still costing people their jobs. But dude, this isn't even like technological progress. This is just like, here, you do it, I don't want to pay these people anymore. And like, dude, that's even worse.
Well, yeah. Well, they do have a couple people that man the lines. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah.
They're the most incompetent motherfuckers on the face of the earth.
Of course. They're just kind of like, the lunchroom monitor, or...
Yeah, exactly. Sloppy Joes. Here you go. They slap some meat on top of the scanner. But I do specifically remember you in your youth freaking out in a fucking CVS when they first started using these self-checkout lines.
Right.
And you were like hooting and hollering about people losing their jobs and stuff.
Man.
So
yeah, it bothered me.
When you mentioned to me, oh well, it doesn't really bother me now. I'm like, well, it sure as fuck bothered you then.
Well, it does. I mean, it does bother me. Like I said, it does bother me. It's just that my reason for it bothering me has changed. But the thing is, I'll admit, when it first started happening, when these checkout lines started taking over, I'm like, you know what? Fuck them. I was still kind of in my pseudo criminal mind state, so I'm like, you know what? If they're gonna leave it up to me, I may accidentally not hit the barcode on this certain item and like act like I'm scanning it and just put it in my, I'll admit I did that a few times over the years, and
how dare you?
Well, dude, it's funny. A certain stand-up comic, Bill Burr, has been very vocal about self-checkout lines as well. I noticed. I found a kindred spirit in him, and he mentioned, if this is the way it's gotta be, I'm gonna be rolling hams out the door and fucking, this and that. He's like, fuck it. I got to the checkout line, I waited for you guys, you didn't show up, so I fucking left and I took all my shit. So
he's got a point.
Yeah, man.
There you go.
But I'll admit, one day I went into the self-checkout lines and I was like, and I accidentally didn't scan something and I put it in my bag. All of a sudden, the whole computer system shut down, and it was like, see attendant. And I noticed that there was like, they turned cameras around facing everyone and at their own thing, and they can see everything you do. So yeah, people, just a little word of advice. I mean, I was able to be like, oh, I accidentally didn't scan it. I thought I heard it beep, when I scanned it, but just so you know.
Don't be rolling hams out the door.
Yeah, man. I mean, I feel like a lot of my little talking points here involve, don't be a piece of shit like I was. And so, everyone...
Okay. Life lessons from Nate.
Check out your own stuff. Do it correctly. But if you can, go to a line where there's somebody actually getting paid to do the work instead of you doing the work for them. Because, I personally haven't gotten a paycheck since I started checking out my own items, so...
Very true. Very true. Someone mentioned to me there was like a meme going around, a meme, about how, you're getting your tax returns. I still haven't got my tax return from Walmart for using the self-checkout 2,000 times this year. But I never use them.
Really?
And the reason why I don't is because the line is always so fucking long.
Yeah. Yeah, it almost...
So many of these drones are like, I'm going to save time by checking out this shit myself. No, you won't, you asshole. The fucking line is 37 people long.
Yeah, man. It's true.
So I just stroll on over to freaking Roberta over here, and she checks me out fucking lickety-split.
God bless you, Roberta.
Bing, bang, boom.
Yeah, man.
And like you said, I don't want to do the work myself. I figure I'm just going to put shit on the fucking conveyor. They bag it for me, everything. How much time do I really save? You don't.
Dude, it's one thing if you're getting like one or two items and you want to hurry up and get through the self-checkout, but I see people walking up with like a whole cart, and I'm like, there's no way you're more skilled at checking and bagging these things than somebody that's been doing... Well, I guess. I don't know. I guess.
Slow your roll on that one. It's not it doesn't take the most finesse just to fucking roll something over a scanner.
Listen, I'm trying to save these people their jobs, I'm trying to like... make them sound more skilled than they are.
Well, maybe they can start reciting poetry as they check you out, or we can give them some other tasks to do as if they don't have enough. I mean, I understand dealing with customers must be a fucking pain in the ass. There are times I go up to them and I'm like, hey, how you doing today? And you just get a grunt or a look.
Absolutely.
And there are other times they're nice and friendly, but I mean, they got to do this over and
Yeah.
over again, repetition, and they're on their fucking feet all fucking day.
Right.
Dealing with God knows what. People, I mean, some people still use paper money.
Yeah.
And they got to deal with change and everything else.
Oh my God.
I've been in lines before where people use multiple cards
Yeah,
to
dude.
check out. And that's the worst because my cardinal sin is I don't want my milk to hit room temperature.
Right.
So I always get my milk last before I hit the checkout line. And if I do that, and someone's holding me up, I look at my milk sweating. I look at that fucking person with like the death look, man.
Yeah.
Like, do not let my milk get warm.
God forbid. I swear to God, man, these people, it's like customer service is a skill in its own. I know that because I personally, whenever I was, applying for jobs, looking for work, my last resort was interacting with public. And that's not because I'm some like shut-in hermit. It's just, it adds an element of a job that's like, some people are built for it. And I'm not an awful person at talking to people. Like I said, it's just that, I don't know, some people are salesmen. Some people are, just really good at small talk and bullshitting. And I have a hard time faking it, man. I'm okay talking to waiters and waitresses. Like, I'll give my girlfriend a hard time because she's very businesslike with a waiter or waitress. She's to the point where I'll give her a hard time. I'll be like, are you being like mean to that waiter? Like, I always rag on her for it. But like, she's like, look, I'm just saving them the trouble. Like, you don't have to blow sunshine up my ass. Like, I'm here to order food. You're here to bring it to me. Let's just be businesslike about it. And she tips well. She's like, look, I always tip well. So even if they're like somewhat offended or not happy with how I'm not being super friendly with them, like, I always make up for it with the money at the end. And I can't, I can't argue with her. But when it comes to, checking people out in line, it's like, I think that's a skill that, it would drag me down after a while. So I respect these people that are doing it. And while it's tempting to check my own stuff out so I don't have to have that fake interaction with people, in principle, I'm opposed to it.
Right on.
Walmart pays people so little as it is, where people that have a job at Walmart still need to get on welfare because they're not being paid enough to survive, and they're working. So I don't know, without getting into that whole topic.
Oh yeah, it's a whole another can of worms right there. It's great that your girlfriend also tips well.
Yeah.
The only problem with that is that's after they've already spit in her food.
Yeah, that's a good point, man.
They're like, oh, that fucking woman's so damn rude.
Yeah.
And as far as customer service, here's the customer service you're going to get at the self-checkout. Ma'am, this isn't working. It's broken.
Looking to experience ultimate relaxation and relief of chronic pain? You need to try the healing power of CBD with hemp bombs. Visit hempbombs.com for a wide range of pure, premium CBD products. From oils, capsules, gummies, pain-frees, and more, Hemp Bombs has all you need in store. Better sleep has proven to boost your immune system. And if you or a loved one live with discomfort, CBD is a natural organic remedy that works. Start living your best life today with Hemp Bombs. Fans of the show can now save 15% off by using code SELLINGOUT at checkout. Again, that's one word, selling out, to enjoy the benefits of CBD for 15% off at hempbombs.com.
Howdy, Nate. How are you today?
Yeah, fucking wicked good, dude.
Wicked good, buddy. Nice accent you got there.
Thanks, man. Accents are weird. I mean, you live in Texas, and we're from Massachusetts, a place where there's a definite, known accent, dialect, whatever you want to call it. There, we have our own way of speaking, and I don't know. It's strange coming from here. Like I said, you moved down south, and
sure.
And my girlfriend and I go down every year to South Carolina, so we're in the thick of this, sort of southern drawl area. And I mean, I look at the positives and negatives of moving down south, man. Like, being from somewhere that's so cold, and we have our winters, I've mentioned before, I get that seasonal affective disorder where I feel shitty in the winter and I'm depressed. I would love to get away from that and just have nice weather, beaches if necessary, sunshine. The South seems like really nice for that. But there's a few things, I mean, aside from the pervasive religion and Christianity down there, which would drive me nuts, and that's a whole other subject. I don't know if no offense to any of our listeners that may be down south, but dude, your accent kind of drives me nuts after a while. No offense, and I'm sure ours drives you nuts, I'm sure, but man, there's something about that southern accent where you like, it's almost like adding syllables where, like, if someone's like, stop being a bitch, you would say, stop being a bitch. And you add like a syllable. It's like you take a vowel sound and like turn it into 2 vowel sounds. And part of me wonders, is that where the old hip hop thing of like, biatch, does that come from like people in the South?
I don't know. I don't think you added a syllable. I think you added some sassy.
There's a little sass.
That's what you did right there.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, another thing about moving south, though.
Yeah.
No snow.
Yeah.
But there's fucking critters that can kill you.
Oh, yeah. That's another thing. Shit.
There's more poisonous animals. And that's the thing. It's a give and a take.
Yeah.
So you're like, all right, no more snow. And that's fucking great. Don't get me wrong. But then, you could have tornadoes.
Yeah.
You could get your, whatever, toe bitten by a fucking...
Rattler.
Rattler. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, accents are funny. And I put mine on extra thick here in Texas.
Yeah.
Because it kind of, I don't know how I should put this, it scares some people.
Yeah.
If I meet a stranger or whatever and I put it on, maybe they think I'm a tough guy or something.
Yeah.
Like, listen to this East Coast motherfucker talk.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know what it is. I've always kind of had the accent,
Right.
but now I fully embrace it. I don't try to ever hide it.
Well,
Even when I lived in New Jersey
Mhm.
for a short period of time, people there thought it was weird. And I mean, that's back east.
yeah, that's not
To the
even
point
that
where-
different. Like,
No, no, it's not. And I remember one night we had the security badges, to which I call them cards, that would let you in and out of the facility.
CARD, CAD. Right.
Cards,
Right.
but I would say cards.
Right.
And somebody needed to borrow mine. And when they came back, I said, hey, man, where's my card?
Yeah.
And he's like, excuse me? I'm like, my card. And I mean, this guy he didn't know what the fuck I was talking about.
He
So
thought
I
you were
did. I
talking
had to
about a fish.
enunciate.
A card.
Right, exactly. And I'm like, I need my card.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, you sound like you're from England, man. I'm like, New England, motherfucker. Don't you forget it. But I mean, yeah, that's just one of those things. Wherever you go,
Yeah.
there's these regional accents, and we think they sound annoying
Right.
or dumb or whatever. But to them, it's the same thing. It's like,
Yeah. Well, dude.
hey, man, you guys sound fucking ridiculous with that shit.
Right. I mean, but the thing is, I understand where you're coming from because you're in a new place, but you're retaining the identity of where you come from. You know what I mean? Like when you talk to these people, that's a part of your identity. It's like you don't, never mind that you're probably walking around with the Patriots gear on or Red Sox fucking shirts and whatnot, a Red Sox hat, but like, your identity also comes out in how you talk, and people, before they even ask you, they can probably tell you're at least from the Northeast. I don't think there's that much of a difference between like the New York accent and the Boston accent, but there's huge rivalries between New York and Boston, obviously, but both accents kind of get rid of that R, you know what I mean? And there's definitely subtle differences. The whole coffee and talk and all that is New York, whereas Boston is like what, like I don't know.
That's a guy from Massachusetts doing a mock Massachusetts accent?
Pack the car and have it, yeah, dude.
They're in the yard, not too far from the car.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Get the chowder.
Chowder, dude. Yeah, man. I spent some years when I was younger actually consciously trying not to,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I tried not to have that accent just because when I was younger, I didn't really, I hate to sound snobby, but I didn't think it sounded that intelligent. I'll be honest with you. But,
It doesn't.
But
And I'm not.
yeah. You heard it here first, folks. But, no, man, I'm just saying, I think now that it's, like I said, it's almost a badge of, I don't want to say badge of honor, but a badge of like, this is who I am, this is where I'm from, and I bring my culture with me, whether it's just in, my lack of consonants. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you're younger, you want to kind of like branch out.
Right.
And maybe pretend like you're from somewhere else.
Set yourself apart from what you're.
Yeah, it's more exotic to think you're from some other place.
Right.
And then as you get older, you accept. And for me, I've moved around a lot. So I've moved to
Right.
different locations, and it's become, part of my identity.
Sure.
People say, oh, that's the guy from Mass. Or they say Boston, even though I'm not
Yes.
from Boston. It might be Worcester, Mass. But
Right.
it's become a thing for me. And I do embrace it. I do enjoy it. And I like it. And as you mentioned, I'm already walking around with my Red Sox Patriots stuff.
Yep.
So it's kind of like a tip right there. Hey, this guy is not from around here, but
you're like a caricature of a New England person. You're wearing you got a Patriots fucking shirt, a Red Sox hat, and you're not pronouncing your fucking I's, and you're saying wicked. You know.
And I got a fucking Dunkin' Donuts koozie right here holding my iced coffee. I mean, no, I don't go that far, but it's natural. It feels good.
Yeah, sure.
And I like it. I like it. But at the same time, I don't like it when people say dinosaur.
Yeah.
Just fucking say dinosaur, man. Why do you gotta say dinosaur? At least with our accent, we're just leaving shit out.
Yeah, man. I feel like the problem I have with the whole dinosaur thing is that they think that dinosaurs existed with humans, that God put us all on at the same time. Humans and dinosaurs coexisted, and the Earth is only 6,000 years old. And anyway.
Yeah, that is some weird shit. But you know what? if you believe in that, in the whole, I mean, whatever you believe in, if you don't like accents, if you love accents, if you have an accent, it's easy to reach out to us. We want to hear from you, your opinions on the show, everything we talk about, or any suggestions you may have. We're easy to get a hold of. You can find us on Twitter at SellingOutShow, or just send us an email, sellingoutshow@gmail.com. We want to hear about everything, your whole entire life. We want to stalk you.
Don't ever leave me.
Ever.
Good, because I'd find you.
Sure, we all know vaping saves lives, but now I want to save you some money. Visit NorthlandVapors.com. Proudly made in North Dakota, Northland Vapors line of e-liquids contain no artificial sweeteners, are dictone free, and won't gunk up your coils. Whether you're quitting smoking or an experienced vapor, Northland carries a variety of flavors and hardware, making it a one-stop shop for all your vaping needs. Northland believes quality doesn't need to be costly, and right now you can use code SellingOut19 and save 19% off their already amazing prices. So what are you waiting for? Get your head into the clouds and shop online at northlandvapor.com or visit their locations in Moorhead and Bemidji, Minnesota. Some products contain nicotine, adults only.
I was thinking a lot about this kid that I had met years ago. Now I'm talking this was probably at least 15 years ago that I met this kid, but I was incarcerated, and there was this, I believe he was 18, maybe he had just turned 19 when I met him. And
young man.
Yeah, young man, looked like a deer in headlights, you know, he did not know what he was doing there. This kid came from a good family. The point is, he was in there serving 2.5 years, and he had 10 years probation when he got out, which sounds pretty hefty for someone who I learned had never been incarcerated before, had never even been in trouble before. And it sounds long until you hear his story. Like, this kid was a good student. If you talk to the kid, he had, well-educated, came from a good home, suburban, whatever, all these opportunities. He went to a graduation party. I forget if it was his own, but the point is, he got behind the wheel of the car when he had been drinking.
Oh.
Yeah, man. And he made that one decision to get behind the wheel, and it altered his life forever. He was in an accident. Someone died. It's, this horrible story. And it's like, what do the courts do in that situation? Someone died, so someone has to be held responsible. So
absolutely,
I can understand if the family even felt slighted that this kid only got 2.5 years in jail for a whole life. And granted, yes, he's got 10 years probation afterwards, and these are the formative years of his life. This kid's gonna, when he gets out, he may still not even be able to drink legally by the time he gets out. But, for those next 10 years, he's not legally able to drink regardless, because he's on probation. They're not going to allow him to drink. They're going to give him drug tests and all this. But it's like I said, this kid had never been in trouble before. He probably had college all lined up, all these things. And that moment of that one decision altered everything for him. And man, I was thinking a lot about him and recently, and it got me thinking. I mean, I think I don't know if all of us, but I know myself, it's like I can pinpoint certain times in my life where it's like one decision changed everything.
Sure.
And
right.
And if I look back, there's times where I go nuts if I'm just laying there and in the dark or whatever, I can't sleep, and I start thinking back on for example, for me, the first night I ever tried opiates, tried heroin, I remember the moment I tried it. I remember thinking, should I do this? I remember all of it. And I remember who was there. I remember afterwards, and I remember almost immediately afterwards being like, oh wow, I'm glad I did that. Like, it was because it's such a, an alluring, warm feeling, obviously, which is why I shouldn't have done it. But now thinking back, I'm like, if I had not done that, I mean, everything would have been different. My life was altered,
drastically
by that one
a lot of
decision.
remembering for a big regret.
Right. So it's like, it just got me to think about how certain single decisions or certain single days of life could alter everything. I mean, I don't know about you. Do you have any of those sort of memories where
sure, yeah.
one choice?
It's a tough thing to think about, really, because you can't do anything about it.
Right.
Everybody has the fantasy, if I could turn back time, not the Cher song, but still, if I could go back, what would I fucking change? And for me, when I was 17, I did like this self-emancipation from my mother. I moved out.
Yeah.
I got my own apartment with my buddy.
Yeah.
I was partying all the time. I was a senior in high school.
Right.
And much like your opiate story, it felt good. I was having a good time. With hindsight being 2020, I can see the terrible emotions I put my mother through, my entire family through, how much of a fucking prick bastard I was, how much I fought for this tooth and nail, to be free, to be my own man, because I knew it all, just so I could get some fucking pussy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it was, without any restrictions, without anybody telling me what to do. That's all I wanted. All my friends were older. They were in their 20s. I mean, even then, some of them lived at home.
Right.
But I looked up to them and thought they were like these role models, and that this was the way to truly live. You had to have fun all the time.
Unrestricted.
And it was a blast, man. I had times, I mean, I got stories up the yin-yang.
Right.
But what are they worth now? They're not worth a fistful of sand.
Right.
Being older now, looking back, I go, Jesus, all that fun. I put everybody through the ringer.
Right.
Just so I could have a good time. And I'd go back and change that if I could, but I can't, so I won't.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'll podcast about it.
Yeah.
Let all the people know what kind of miserable son of a bitch I am.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just, like I said, it just kind of drives you nuts because, as we mentioned, there's nothing you can do about it. It's a thing I cannot change. So maybe you can alter your choices in the future because of something you learned in the past. But man, after years of life being altered because of that, man, it's kind of heady, man. I wonder whatever happened to that kid in jail that I met, though. Like I said, man, this kid was young. He looked scared, and part of me wonders if after that 2.5 years of being locked up, man, like, sure, he still had some trace of that innocence and naivete or whatever when I met him. But by the end of 2.5 years, man, you can come out of that place a totally different person. And you know what I mean? Yeah. He may come out with a whole different kind of education than he was planning on. And those next 10 years of probation, I mean, he might be almost done with that by now. Like, he might be done with. He probably is done with all that by now. This was so long ago that unless that probation ended up being a setup for him, like I said, the kid gets out of jail at a young age still, with all this probation, and he's on drug tests and all this stuff. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, but Nate, we all make mistakes. We just talked about ours, and you're detailing his, but you almost seem like you want to make him a sympathetic character here.
I find him a sympathetic character.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't, and the reason why I don't is because he killed somebody.
Okay.
And God forbid, I know I possibly could have killed somebody myself. Luckily, I did not.
Right.
But I can't look, as an outsider here, listening to your story, I can't look at the whole situation and go, yeah, I hope he did all right.
Yeah.
Or I hope he's okay. I don't know him.
Yeah.
But if you got drunk, you drove, you killed somebody, whatever happens to you, happens to you. I'm sorry, but that's the way it is.
Sure. He's got to pay for it, but it's like, and like I said, his sentence seems kind of light for a lot of people. When you think of someone dying, you don't think 2.5 years and probation, but at the same time, like I said, one choice, man. You know what I mean? And it was a bad choice. But hey, whatever. It's a controversial subject, and everyone's gonna think about it differently. But when I met the kid, I could tell that this kid was like, imagine not just having to deal with the time and all that. It's like having that on your conscience too. And it's like, yeah, maybe you don't have sympathy for him, or maybe your sympathy is tempered by, by the act that he did, the fact that somebody died. But man, maybe I'd feel different if I knew the family of the person he killed too,
Yeah, there's a lot of factors involved. I mean, I've had someone in my family die because of someone with distracted driving.
Okay.
I've talked in previous podcast episodes about the texting and
Right.
driving. I lost a family member because of that. So yeah, cars and deaths and it's just, I don't like it.
Yep.
I don't like it. And yeah. So I mean, if we all know all the circumstances involved, sure. But at the same time, I can't really feel bad for him on that level.
Okay.
But I can't. It's a human thing. We all make mistakes, big or small,
Right.
throughout our entire lives. We all have regrets. We just have to push forward and hope we can defeat them in a way. And like you said, learn from now.
Right.
Not linger on then.
Right.
Dave from the Selling Out Show here to tell you about Spunk Lube. Spunk Lube is a multi-award-winning lubricant used by professionals in the adult film industry. Spunk is available in hybrid, pure silicone, natural, and pink. Spunk is made with the highest quality ingredients and is non-staining, hypoallergenic, and cleans with ease. Enhance your love life with Spunk. Right now, Spunk Lube is buy 3, get 1 free. There's no excuse not to give it a try. Spunk Lube, a high-end product for an affordable price. Visit spunklube.com today and you can thank me later.
Dust off your LPs. It's time for Nate's Notes.
I grew up in a small town in Massachusetts. There aren't a lot of stoplights, and even less so when I was growing up. I lived on a long, woodsy road, and houses were usually like a quarter to a half mile apart. It wasn't a neighborhood per se, and my brother and I didn't have neighborhood kids to play with, so we spent our days playing in the woods, building rope swings, or even cabin-like structures. Our imaginations were sharpened by our need for adventure and fun. Of course, we didn't have the modern distractions of social media or the internet at all. In fact, the first decade of my life was spent without so much as a Nintendo. We didn't get the newfangled NES, Nintendo Entertainment System, until I was roughly 10 years old. We had an Atari 2600. But even a couple little kids could only hit that single orange button so many times before it got a little boring. We were still pretty outdoorsy kids, so we definitely stuck to those old patterns of play, even while being gradually possessed by the home video gaming bug in its infancy. But this segment isn't about gaming. It's about another distraction that disrupted our play schedule around the same time, give or take a couple years. Being that it was a podunk little town, when the mind-blowing new thing called cable television started spreading its coaxial tentacles a few decades back, it took a while for them to reach us. I remember being so excited to go to my grandparents' house in the big city of Worcester, partly because Worcester had cable years before we did, and I could watch HBO and VH1 and of course MTV. When cable finally arrived in our town, I suddenly had access to those channels and all the others, which back then probably numbered around 50, and it got appropriately harder to do my homework. Being a lifelong music junkie, my real weak spot was MTV, and to a lesser extent VH1, which wasn't quite as good, but it was a lot closer to MTV back then, before it grew into its adult contemporary identity. Of course, eventually, years later, both channels mostly eliminated music altogether in favor of reality shows and other forms of vapid, lowest common denominator garbage. But in those carefree, halcyon days of youth, MTV was still a fairly rebellious little station that played the limited music videos that even existed back then. It was a new medium, this music video thing, but in context, this shit was mind candy to a kid like me, and the ones with decent production values were usually memorable. Like, I remember seeing the flashy, computer-generated video clip for Dire Straits' Money for Nothing, and of course, Aha's Take On Me video is kind of the gold standard for memorable 80s videos, with its cool, sketchy animation and dramatic chase scene love story vibe. But along the way, I also had Peter Gabriel's videos for Sledgehammer and Big Time. I remember watching Run DMC and Aerosmith team up for Walk This Way. I loved I Ran by A Flock of Seagulls. As I got a little older, MTV would start airing non-music video centered shows here and there, and some were cool. I loved the sketch comedy show The Idiot Box. It had Alex Winter, who played Bill in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. The Idiot Box was fairly ahead of its time as far as sketch comedy goes, but it actually did intersperse videos in with the sketches. Liquid Television was a great showcase for unique animated shorts, and it gave birth to both Aeon Flux and Beavis and Butthead. But my favorite shows were usually just niche video shows. Headbangers Ball was great. Alternative Nation and 120 Minutes were often pretty reliable. And I have great memories, and at one point a VHS copy I recorded off the TV, but that's long gone now, of an awesome show hosted by veteran weirdo radio DJ Dr. Demento. He played all these bizarre comedy, parody, or just weird novelty song videos. If you've ever heard the song Fish Heads by Barnes and Barnes, you would remember. And if so, it'll probably get stuck in your head now just thinking of it. I hear a lot of musicians complain about music video clips. A lot of artists don't like that a certain visual element is suddenly linked to a song they wrote. Usually a visual element created and directed by someone else. Music creates its own imagery, but it's abstract and unique to each listener. When you release a video, suddenly there's an associated set of colors and images to the song, and it takes that subjective experience out of it. Of course, there have been bands that embrace video, and members tie the music to imagery themselves. Adam Jones, the guitarist of Tool, has always been very conscious of the visual side of his band, and he's animated a lot of videos for his own songs. Now, I'm not the biggest Tool fan anymore, but I've always respected their clarity of vision, how it all makes one package, the music and the imagery. I think their best days are behind them, but they allegedly have a long-awaited impending new album. Maybe they'll surprise me this year. Oddly enough, a band with more than one connection to Tool is Green Jello. I don't know if you remember them, but yeah, I know Kraft Foods sued them and they had to start spelling their name Jelly instead of Jello. But if you ask the band, the pronunciation never changed. So they technically still go by Green Jello. They're the ones who did the old Three Little Pigs song way back in the 90s. Well, Green Jello released a whole album of songs with videos. Like they released it as a VHS tape back in the day. Who knows, maybe you can get a DVD now. I'm sure it's all online. But the point is, if you had the album on like CD or LP or whatever, it was called a soundtrack to that video collection. Like each song had an accompanying video clip. All incredibly low budget and full of paper mache and foam puppets and costumes. Occasionally there was some stop motion animation, as in the video for the aforementioned Three Little Pigs, but it was an interesting and ambitious concept, making an album of all videos. I still remember a lot of it, and I haven't seen it in probably 25 years at this point. And by the way, aside from sharing a record label and producer back in the day, both Tool and Green Jello featured Danny Carey on drums back then. And even Tool's singer, Maynard James Keenan, shows up on a few Jello songs. Hell, he's the voice of the Three Pigs. So that's that connection I was mentioning between Tool and Green Jello. Nowadays you can watch any of these old videos online, and new ones. Artists are still making videos. It's cool, the need for MTV is gone in the age of YouTube and Vivo, which is good because MTV stopped being MTV years ago. I mentioned earlier how it's no longer anything like the channel it used to be. It seems like one is lucky to even see music videos on, quote, music television at all these days. For years, it's been a collection of dumbed-down game shows and internet clip shows, a lot of, quote, reality TV. And actually, one can point at MTV specifically for the advent of that horrible reality programming bullshit. Remember years ago in the early 90s when they had the great idea for the show The Real World? Sure, that show seemed like an interesting idea at the time, but looking back now, I think that was the beginning of the end as far as reality TV entertainment goes, but that's a whole other subject. In conclusion, I guess I'll just say that music videos became a necessary part of music marketing a few decades ago, and many artists still make them, but the venue for displaying them has changed considerably over the years. I don't really care what happened to MTV specifically. If I want to watch the video for Michael Jackson's Thriller, I'll just find it online. Thank you very much. I mean, MTV was a pretty big part of our youth, Dave. I mean, we were part of that MTV generation, but it's just, I don't know, like many other things in our lives, it kind of just fell by the wayside over the years, you know, but...
You just put a lot on my plate with that whole Nate's Notes, buddy. That's a lot to digest. I mean, I'm thinking back on that era of MTV and how, you know, you mentioned the shows from Liquid Television. I remember The Head. You remember that show, The Head?
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah.
I used to have that on VHS. I really enjoyed that as a teenager. I had the hots for Kennedy.
Yep. Yep.
Which is kind of gross now. But, but then it was like a thing. It was like, cool, alternative hot girl. Wow. Yeah. I never see those on the streets. You know?
Do you know where Kennedy ended up?
Wasn't she like some kind of conservative wacko or something now?
She's on Fox News now. She's all, her hair's all cut in this neat bob, and her glasses are, you know, a little more rich, you know, she looks very conservative, but it's just weird. She was this hipster sort of VJ who was the cool one, and now she's part of the machine, man. She's part of the right-wing machine.
Yeah, MTV has outlived its usefulness.
Yeah.
I don't know what artists, and I'm not hip or cool or down with what's going on now, but which artists break because of MTV? Is there any?
I honestly don't know, man.
I don't think there would be. I mean, with everything being so accessible, who really needs MTV or a music video to be broadcast on their channel to make it? I mean, back in the day, you'd have to give blowjobs and gratuitous amounts of cocaine just to get on MTV, and now nobody gives a fuck.
I know it's strange, man. Like I said, I just am confused why they even still call it MTV anymore. You know, you'd think it would be something, you could change the name to something involving youth culture or something like that instead of MTV, but I guess...
Brand.
Branding, and it's kind of like the whole KFC, where Kentucky Fried Chicken is no longer Kentucky Fried Chicken, it's just KFC, and they're not, you know what I mean? It's like they...
Yeah.
It doesn't mean Kentucky Fried Chicken anymore, really.
No, they sell pizza.
KFC. Right. You know?
It doesn't matter anymore. And I'm glad you brought up green Jello, because we talked about that off air, because I had that VHS. And at the time, it was like the coolest thing ever. I'm like, this is a really new concept. This is pretty wild.
Yeah.
And whatever happened to them, they never get brought up anymore. This might be the only show in the last decade bringing up the green Jello experience.
It's funny talking about them today. I wanted to get a few of the details correct, so I was like looking up stuff online about them, and apparently they still perform. Like I noticed that, and their roster of members, because it's all puppeteers and artists and whatnot, is like, I'm talking dozens of people have been involved in this band, and of course the only two that have any recognition are the two that ended up in Tool after, you know, performing on Three Little Pigs or whatever. But yeah, it's bizarre. Everyone knows Tool, but nobody knows the origins of their drummer and you know, Maynard from Tool. But yeah, they came from Green Jello.
Staying up late on a Saturday night to watch Headbangers Ball and Ricky Rackman.
Yeah, dude.
Who was really just a fucking dink. But it was better than 120 minutes because I didn't want to watch Morrissey videos.
Right. Well, see, I enjoyed the Morrissey. Well, I don't like Morrissey. I never liked Morrissey, but I liked the Depeche Mode and Cure videos you may have seen on 120 Minutes and whatnot. But
oh yeah, right. I mean, I'd see like the Lemonheads, and I like the Lemonheads quite a bit, and they'd be on 120 Minutes, not in Headbangers Ball. But
sure,
you know, there's a phase I went through as a teenager where it's going to be heavy, it's going to be fucking metal all the time.
Yeah, they're playing Sepultura and Pantera videos on there, man. It was cool. You know, I think Headbangers Ball was where I first heard Sepultura, I remember. It's funny, the series of movies, I don't know if you remember the Decline of Western Civilization movies. They're a series of 3 documentaries made over the course of like 20 years. And the first one was all about the punk rock scene in California. It had like Black Flag and, the Germs and all these bands. And it was about kind of the street punk culture and all this. And then the next entry, which was all about the hair metal phenomenon and the Sunset Strip and all those bands and how decadent. And there's a really famous scene of like the guitarist from Wasp sitting in a floaty in his pool, just guzzling bottles of vodka, like pouring down whole bottles into his mouth. It's, like,
God bless him.
And his mother is sitting looking all depressed, just kind of like, yep, that's my son on the edge of the pool, like this older woman. The movies are oddly touching and kind of deep for such silly subject matter. But anyway, in that second Decline of Western Civilization movie, they interview a young Ricky Rackman before he was on MTV. He was the owner of this club I forget the name of the club he owned. It was like, not the Viper Room, that was what's his name's club, Johnny Depp's club, but it was something like that, like some trendy club on the Sunset Strip. That's where Ricky Rackman came from. He was just some club owner / promoter.
Yeah.
And then they gave him a show on Headbangers Ball, like called Headbangers Ball. He was more from the glam era, and he's trying to seem like this hardcore metalhead, which is why I think he got punched a few times over the years, once by like Dave Mustaine and once by Al Jurgensen. I remember, people clashing with Ricky over the years.
And then he cut his hair. Fucking sellout.
Right? That's worse
than
Metallica cutting their hair.
Those things were a big deal back then. I can't believe, looking back, that people took it that serious, but it really was. I mean, that was a style choice. And now you look at some of the big artists, and again, I'm not super familiar with all of them, but Nicki Minaj, right?
Yeah.
She changes her look every 5 minutes.
Right.
And it's cool. That's a thing, And back then, you'd lose your cred if you changed your style. You weren't the same artist. You couldn't be.
Right.
Because you visited the fucking Baba.
Well, it's about branding, like you said before. Your image can be part of your brand.
Well, even the original artists, like David Bowie, famously loved MTV. A lot of the British bands were making videos before MTV even existed.
Sure.
That's why a lot of them broke, I guess, in America. Well, you're the music expert, so I need your help with something here, because I'm going to make a bold claim right now.
Okay.
I think the demise, or the sudden demise of MTV's importance, was it the band, were they called OK Go? The ones that would do the song where they're on like the treadmills.
Here we go again, or whatever. Yeah. Yep.
Yes. What was the name of that band?
Okay, Go. That was that.
Oh, okay. Wow, I got one.
Yeah,
hey,
on the
give me a
treadmills,
fucking cookie. Yeah. But that's the kind of stuff that was at that time was going viral.
Yeah.
So you were watching on your phone. People were emailing each other at the office that video, like, oh, check this out. It's all one continuous shot.
Yeah.
And they didn't need to see it on TV. They were just sending it to each other. So.
Right.
I'm a fucking historian, motherfucker. Nail it down. Look at me go.
Yeah, let's put the final nail in the coffin of MTV, man, because I think it's right now it's basically its death rattle as it's doing all these shitty internet clip shows and all these. I don't know, man. I'm tired.
I haven't watched it in years. So I couldn't even begin to tell you what's on it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really either. That's why I'm kind of being vague about what's on it now. But I remember over the years seeing such awful shows like, my whatever Sweet 16 birthday where these spoiled kids. I know that's probably old.
Teen
news.
Mom.
That's probably, all these shows that were just like, dude, this is just embarrassing for our culture, and I don't know.
They contribute to the downfall of society because. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being a teen mother. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
do whatever you want to do, but just don't be fucking trashy about it.
Right.
But
man.
that was the thing. A lot of people could be trashy on TV, and they looked at those people like role models.
Right.
It's like Kim Kardashian. Why is she famous?
Right.
She was rich. She had a sex tape.
Right. She was famous for being famous.
Exactly. Now she's selling fucking comforters at Sears. So I mean, that's just our culture now. That's how it is, and it's like I can't talk about the now. I can only refer to the past. Because that's really all I know. So it's hard to say what the future of MTV will be. but I can say with a fair amount of certainty that its time is over and it's gone the way of the dinosaur.
Dinosaur.
And just like dinosaurs, this show is now extinct. Fossilize us. We have to go. We got to hit the road. Nate, it's been fun talking with you. I want to thank each and every one of you out there for taking the time to listen to us and our humble little program. Virtual hugs for all of you. I am Dave, that is Nate, and this has been Selling Out.
Peace.
Wake up, you never look so glum. Tell me how we know they can't hear us coming. It's easy for me, I got a head start running away. Keep up for your disease spread quick. So how did you learn to be sick? So cunning. It's easy to see, but you just keep on humming along. Infirmary Media.